Thank you, Speaker. I welcome the opportunity to make a contribution to the Workers' Compensation Legislation Amendment Bill 2025. And Speaker, I do so as the member for Albury, as a member, as we all are, deeply invested in wanting to see the wellbeing of our community and recognising that that we need to strike the right balance of laws in that regard. I do so, though, from the perspective of a business owner. I still own a business. I'm one of the few in this place who perhaps can speak of that experience. From my perspective, I've been a business owner since 2008. I know, I speak of, I tell people that there is nothing, in my experience, more stressful than being a small business owner. Navigating through times such as the global financial crisis, navigating through COVID. And in that sense, I bring that perspective into this chamber. I also speak as someone, both as a business owner and as a local member and as a member of my community. I speak deeply with passion about mental health and mental wellbeing in our community. And I see a connection in that regard as well. One of the initiatives that just last year, in collaboration with our local business chamber, Albury Business Connect, we rolled out a mental health wellbeing app or platform known as Leora. So in collaboration with Albury Business Connect, our local chamber, we rolled this out, looking at how workplaces can play a crucial role in driving positive mental wellbeing, positive mental health in our community. So I come into this chamber from that perspective. So I say, firstly, in addressing the urgency with which the government presents this bill, we're told that this bill needs to be passed right here, right now in this place, this week, to make sure that we are not seeing an increase in premiums for small business owners. And I've got to say, on that count, Mr. Minns and Mr. Mookie, you're too late. I received the invoice for our business last week. Yeah. On Sunday, I actually made the payment, set the payment. So to come in and tell us now that we are standing here in this place because we need to get the bill through this week for the premiums, that just doesn't seem to make sense for someone who received the invoice last week. The government narrative is that this needs to pass this week, and in my view, that's simply not true. If it were true, the other point to make then is, why did the government leave it to this point in time to bring it before Parliament? Why, as the member for Wahroonga has pointed out, why did the opposition only get presentation of the bill 7 days ago? Is it that it needs to be done this week? Is that not a sign of poor process, and in that sense, poor government? It has more to do, in my view, with the government's budget than a true care for the premium costs and a true care for small businesses. What we need to make sure in this place is that it does not abrogate the responsibility of this Parliament to shape good law. I do recognise, as a business owner and as a member of Parliament, as a representative of my community, of the importance of using what levers we can to drive down premiums when it comes to workers' compensation. I know full well, I know firsthand of pressures on cost of business, and of those, workers' compensation is a significant burden. It is, in my view, it's a hidden burden that those outside of business don't necessarily recognise. I see that there are a number of provisions in this bill which are levers for driving down premiums, but I also see that there are aspects of this bill that actually have an adverse impact when we talk from a business premium perspective. And in that sense, I support the Coalition bringing certain amendments before this House, such as removing the excessive work demands as the basis for a claim. And oddly enough, the need to remove the provision that's making businesses, private businesses, subsidise the Industrial Relations Commission. Now, we know that the IRC is responsible for hearings of the New South Wales public sector under the state awards. Private small business should not be footing the bill for government workplace issues. But, Speaker, of all the amendments that the Coalition are putting forward, and I would like to be able to support this bill, but it needs to be contingent on seeing certain improvements in this bill. And the one that challenges me the most is around the whole person impairment. Where a workplace, just for clarity, for whole person impairment is where a workplace injury or illness is sustained that is permanent in nature, then an individual may be entitled to receive a lump sum payment in addition to weekly payments, medical and related expenses that their claims service provider may be paying to them. The level of the whole person impairment is accepted by the claims service provider, is also used to determine other timeframes such as how long they are entitled to receive weekly compensation payments and how long they are entitled to receive medical expenses. This bill seeks to change the threshold for whole person impairment to 31% for psychological injury. Not for physical injury, but for psychological or mental health injury. Psychological injuries, mental health injuries are real, and we with this bill are creating a double standard between physical injuries and mental health injuries. In doing so, we would abandon people with very significant injuries, leaving them without access to any workers' compensation payments beyond 2.5 years after the injury and to any medical support beyond 3.5 years after the injury. And I make this point clear. I, as a business owner, I know full well that we need to make sure that non-genuine claims, that we are doing what we can to eradicate them. But we should not be abandoning those who have genuine claims, those who are vulnerable, who have needs that we should be meeting. And as a veterinarian, I could not help but looking at those cases that have been in front of iCare, of one case of a young veterinary nurse attacked by a dog. And I want to relate to you what has been reported on this particular case. 34-year-old female full-time veterinary nurse attacked by a dog. The dog shook her arm and she instinctively moved her arm in the same direction as the shaking. The dog continued to shake and she needed to wait for the dog to let her go. She feared for her safety and the safety of her child in utero, who she thought would be killed. She was 34 weeks pregnant at that time. When the dog let go, she dropped to the ground. She had surgery for her physical injuries the following day. She had not been able to return to work in any capacity since then. As a result of the workplace incident, she experienced deterioration in her mental state, characterised by nightmares, flashbacks, and distressing memories about the traumatic incident. Physical and emotional symptoms of anxiety and panic, hypervigilance, heightened startled reaction, irritability, agitation, avoidance of trauma-related reminders including avoidance of her workplace and larger dogs, low mood, social withdrawal, reduced motivation, reduced energy, reduced enjoyment in activities, sleep disturbance with poor sleep maintenance and appetite disturbance with weight gain that was not related to her pregnancy. She also struggled with impaired attention, impaired concentration, impaired memory, feelings of hopelessness and worthlessness, passive suicide ideation, loss of self-confidence, loss of self-esteem, loss of self-identity, and difficulties with trust in interpersonal relationships. Her injury is considered psychological in nature and severe in its extent. She has been diagnosed with PTSD, which has resulted in the development of pervasive symptoms of trauma, depression and anxiety that have caused impairment in her mood regulation, motivation, energy, sleep patterns, appetite, weight, attention, concentration, memory, ability to tolerate stress and pressure, coping mechanisms, self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-identity. These disabilities continue to have a negative impact on her social, occupational, and other important areas of functioning. She was assessed at 17% WPI. Speaker, I seek a short extension.
The question is the member's time be extended. All that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Speaker, when you see the details of that case and recognise that that's 17% whole person impairment, you could not anticipate what would be required to meet the 31% threshold that this government is pushing before us in this House. And so I speak as a business owner, but I speak as a veterinarian, and I would want any one of my veterinary nurses who is injured to that degree to receive the support of the state that they would deserve. Jennifer Ball, President of the Law Society of New South Wales, believes that increasing this impairment metric from 15% to 31% would consequently rule out a majority of workers from accessing claims for workplace psychological injuries. She says, there's no doubt the sustainability of the current scheme needs addressing, but that should not be at the cost of those people who have sustained serious and debilitating psychological injuries on the job. The proposed increase of the whole person impairment threshold to 31% will conceivably exclude nearly all workers with psychological injury from making a claim. To reach 31% WPI, a person would need to demonstrate they're unable to live alone, care for dependents, or to function in society. Speaker, as Jennifer Ball says, I agree, there's no doubt the sustainability of the current scheme needs addressing. But we do need to make sure that we are not doing so at the expense of those vulnerable, those who have a genuine need. As the Shadow Treasurer has said, there's no modelling showing how the harshest parts of this bill save money. Just spin. We back responsible cost savings, but not at the expense of the people who hold up our economy.